This is the little drone that finally let me thread through tree gaps and fly a breezy coastline without clenching my teeth. And it did it while spitting out clean vertical 4K clips I could post immediately. The SKYROVER X1 Fly More combo sits in that sub 249-gram camera drone category that travelers, hikers, real estate shooters, and solo creators keep gravitating toward. It's small enough to bypass a lot of red tape for recreational flying in the US. Yet it packs the sensors and camera quality that usually show up on heavier gear. If you want a compact aircraft that keeps you out of trouble with obstacles and gives you true vertical footage without weird crops, this is probably what you're looking for. Physically, it's compact in a way that actually changes how often I bring it. Folded, it disappears into a side pocket and doesn't tug on a shoulder strap. Mine is the yellow shell, which is easier to spot in grass and on dim trails than the usual gray. The arms swing out with a confident snap, though they're still light plastic, so I'm gentle when folding and unfolding. The gimbal has a proper mechanical rotation to vertical, not a software crop, and that matters for keeping a wide perspective when you turn the camera upright. The controller is the familiar phone-on-top design. No built-in screen, just a sturdy clamp and a cable. It's not glamorous, but the shape sits well in my hands for long flights. In the combo, getting multiple batteries is the difference between a quick test and actually finishing a shoot without rushing every decision. Setup was mostly pain-free, with one caveat. The app recognized the drone quickly on iOS. On Android, I had to learn the sequence. Open the app, connect the cable, then turn on the controller. If I flipped that order, it sometimes refused to handshake. It's the kind of annoyance you forget once you build the habit, but it tripped me up the first day. The initial firmware update took a few minutes over Wi-Fi. After that, power on to takeoff has been fast. GPS lock has been consistent for me. It usually settles before I finish attaching the props and taking off the gimbal cover. In the air, the X1 feels planted. Hovering in coastal wind, it leans hard and holds its ground without letting the camera horizon drift. The 360-degree sensing gave me confidence to push shots in tighter spaces, like flying sideways along a row of trees for that parallax look. When the sensors see something, it doesn't just slam the brakes and ruin the shot. It gently arcs around obstacles in a way that keeps the footage usable. Switch into the fast mode and you get a solid bump in speed, but obstacle avoidance goes away, so I only use that when I have wide open space. The flight noise sits in a lower register than many ultralights I've flown, which makes it less attention-grabbing in parks. The live feedback to the phone has been impressively clean. SkyBridge sends a 1080p image at 60 frames per second when the signal is strong, and that extra smoothness helps when you're composing a moving subject. In my suburban tests where 2.4 and 5.8 GHz are crowded, I still got reliable control well past the distance I could comfortably maintain visual line of sight. Out in the country, I pushed it several kilometers and kept control even when the video started to get choppy. The feed recovers quickly once you turn back toward home. Camera quality was the big surprise here. The 1 3/4-inch sensor punches above its weight in daylight. 4K at 60 looks crisp without that over-sharpened edge that cheaper drones sometimes produce. Highlights roll off in a way that gives me breathing room when the sun pops out mid-shot. Stills are high resolution, and the files have enough detail to crop or straighten horizons without the image falling apart. The much-hyped night mode is genuinely usable. You still need to avoid fast pans and be mindful of bright lights in frame, but for a sub-250-gram aircraft, it pulls clean color out of low light in a way I wasn't expecting. The lens is bright enough that twilight shots have a natural look rather than the muddy blur I associate with older mini drones. The true vertical rotation is the feature I used more than I thought. I shoot a lot of travel and behind-the-scenes bits for social, and being able to preview the real 9:16 composition while flying changes how you frame. It keeps the full wide field instead of cropping the sides off a horizontal frame. So waterfalls, tall buildings, and even group shots from a few feet away make sense in vertical. I've been running the Fly More batteries back to back and getting around 25 to 28 minutes per pack, depending on wind and how hard I push the sticks. With 3 batteries, that gives me a real shooting window, long enough to scout a route, run a safe pass, then come back for the keeper without staring at the percentage the whole time. I land around 20% to keep the packs healthy, and I've never needed to trigger an emergency landing. I tested omnidirectional sensing in a few neutral spots before trusting it near anything valuable. In an empty soccer field with scattered trees, I flew sideways at shoulder height toward a trunk and watched it slide around the obstacle while maintaining the shot. On a narrow bike path, I had it track me at a jogging pace while I weaved under branches. It didn't do anything reckless, and while it occasionally hesitated when I ducked fully behind thick foliage, it picked me up again quickly. For tracking bikes and runners, it's more than good enough as long as you give it clear angles. Active tracking and the smart subject modes are simple to use. I tap to box a subject and the drone locks on and holds position even as it rotates around. There's a spotlight-style behavior that keeps the camera glued to the subject while I fly manually, which is great when I want the flexibility to adjust distance and angle without losing the framing. Automated quick shots like spirals and rockets are smooth, but I use them mostly as references. I prefer to fly my own versions once I see the path. On a coastal morning with 20-ish miles per hour gusts, I sent it out over the water and rode the shoreline. The horizon stayed flat even as the airframe leaned dramatically to fight the wind. Later, in a dense park, I ran low tracking shots along a wooden fence with the sensors on. It slid around posts I didn't catch in the preview, and the footage looked like a practiced dolly move. For a real estate mock-up, I flew a simple 3-point path using waypoints, then repeated the flight after moving a car out of the frame. Both clips lined up closely enough to cut between in post without jarring differences. There are quirks. The app occasionally insists on a login before takeoff, and when I'm already on location with spotty data, that can be irritating. I've had a couple of Android sessions where the USB connection didn't register until I replugged the cable. It hasn't happened on iOS. The airframe is obviously built to hit that weight limit, so the plastic doesn't feel luxurious. It's held up fine so far, but this isn't the drone you casually toss into a pack without a sleeve. The gimbal cover works, though it takes a second to seat properly. Rushing it is how you scratch things. There's no internal storage, so if you forget the micro SD card, you're not recording anything. I also wish there were more accessories available right now, especially ND filters and a controller with a built-in screen to skip the phone cables. Even with those gripes, the daily experience has been strong. The X1 lets me fly in places where heavier drones draw too much attention or require extra paperwork. Sub 249 grams matters for recreational flying in the US, though you should always check your local rules and know that different use cases can have different requirements. For travel, the size and weight mean I actually bring it, not just plan to. The 360-degree sensing takes the stress out of creative shots where you're moving laterally or backward, and the camera quality has been consistently good enough that I don't feel like I'm compromising when I leave a bigger kit at home. If your work revolves around very specific color workflows or you need guaranteed long-term support with an established accessory ecosystem, you might feel the growing pains here. As a compact, regulation-friendly camera drone for solo creators and travelers who need reliable obstacle sensing, steady transmission, and real vertical video in a pocketable body, it hits the right notes. I've trusted it for real shoots and come away with footage I'm happy to put next to clips from larger drones. You can find detailed information about the SKYROVER X1 Fly More combo in the comments section. See you in the next video.